NBC's Luke Russett, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to today's Bing Pulse question for you to answer. Based on what you've seen, do you think this was a good week or a bad week for House Republicans? Go to pulse.msnbc.com to weigh in. And please keep voting through the show because we'll be checking in on the results as we go along. Joining me now is Republican strategist Brian Darling, Democratic strategist Jamal Simmons, and Republican strategist Susan del Percio. That's a lot of strategists. Thank you for being here. Okay, Brian, I want to start with you. On the good column, we've got Paul Ryan coming in. The bad column, there's obviously Benghazi. We put 30 seconds on the clock for you to convince everyone watching. Was it a good or bad week for House Republicans? Take it away.
Well, I have to say it was both good and a bad week, but ultimately a pretty good week because they did settle on a speaker. You had House Republicans finally. They're not a rudderless ship anymore. They have a speaker. It's Paul Ryan. Also, the House Freedom Caucus. I love the House Freedom Caucus. They flex a muscle, and they did get a choice that's marginally more conservative than the leadership they had. Obviously, on the bad side, Benghazi. The Benghazi hearings, 11 hours. I think it made Hillary look a little bit better. They did learn some things, not very much, but it did make Hillary look a lot better, strengthen her in her quest to become president. She's, if you were asking how good her week was, she had a great week. Everybody dropped out running against her.
All right, we're out of time there on your 30 seconds. I don't know what happened to our buzzer there, but I'm going to have to do the buzzer myself if it need be. Jamal, I'm guessing, Brian, that was a good week for the House GOP. That's what you were saying, right?
Yes, good.
Okay, Jamal, your turn. Good week or a bad week? 30 seconds.
Well, I would actually have to agree with Brian. It was both a good and a bad week for House Republicans, but I'll tell you, it was a good week for the country, and here's why I'll tell you that's true, because we started this week out with a lot of uncertainty. We thought that we didn't know who the next Speaker of the House was going to be. We didn't know if Joe Biden was going to run for president. We didn't know how Hillary Clinton was going to do, and now we know Hillary Clinton is the undeniable front runner. We know that Paul Ryan's probably going to be the next Speaker, and I think the country is better off having both of those things settled.
But for the House GOP, a good or bad week?
It was roughly a bad week because they just wasted a whole bunch of taxpayer and voter time in that committee, and we could have been talking about real problems Americans face.
All right, one good week, one bad week for the House GOP. Susan, 30 seconds.
Tiebreaker. It was a good week overall. Yes, as Brian and Jamal said, there were problems with the committee with Hillary Clinton yesterday. But overall, having Paul Ryan decided upon was great. Now they can move forward. Like Luke said, they're going to move in with 240 votes, which was 218 was what McCarthy was hoping for. So that shows a lot of strength, and that overshadows, that has long-term effects versus the very short-term effects that the congressional hearing had.
Okay. You got sneaked in just there inside the 30 seconds. So 2 goods, 1 bad. Brian, I want to start with you with a soundbite from some of the strongest moments Clinton had last night, all through the day, in fact, at the Benghazi committee. Let's listen to that.
If you were to be in my office in the State Department, I didn't have a computer. I did not do the vast majority of my work on email.
Why didn't you just speak plain to the American people?
I did. If you look at my statement, as opposed to what I was saying to the Egyptian Prime Minister, I did state clearly, and I said it again in more detail the next morning, as did the President. I'm sorry that it doesn't fit your narrative, Congressman. I can only tell you what the facts were. I can only hope that the statesmanship overcomes the partisanship.
Brian, I'm going to say that the House GOP looked small compared to what Clinton was doing there. That's got to be a bad week for them, no matter what Paul Ryan can do.
No, I agree. I think the House Republicans didn't do a great job. But then again, this is a long war in running for president. And Hillary Clinton did say some things that are going to come back to haunt her. The fact that Christopher Stevens couldn't get in touch with her, hadn't had any contact with her since he was sworn in and put in Benghazi, that's going to be a problem. Also, all these presidential candidates are going to reference the fact that Libya was Hillary's war, and the fact that she advocated very strongly to go into Libya, and now Libya is a mess. And I think everybody agrees that Libya's got serious problems. Looking back, it wasn't a great decision. She's going to have a hard time defending that decision.
Richard, here's the problem. The Republicans made a fundamental mistake yesterday by giving her 11 hours on the witness stand to have to go through this. Because for the rest of this campaign, all she has to say is, I sat there and took questions about this for 11 hours. If you've got a problem, like, go look it up. This is over. I think the American people have now heard enough of Benghazi.
Susan, let me just give you, hold on. Let me give you, this is from our friends at Politico. Susan, I want you to respond to this. They wrote 5 takeaways from the marathon testimony, and they said at one point, Clinton and her backers run a serious risk if they mistake surviving an ambush for winning. The FBI is still probing Clinton's use of a private email server while at the State Department. You know, is it too soon for the Clinton camp to say that this is a victory? Could this actually still come back and be something good for the SGP?
Yes, absolutely. I think the incident of Benghazi is put to bed as a result of the hearing. Going forward, her policy certainly on Libya, as Brian said, is definitely in play. But more important, the American public separates her email issues with the incident at Benghazi, even though it stemmed from one of the hearings. So now that's her focus. Now, she had a great October, there's no doubt. But October 31st, guess what happens besides Halloween? She's going to get a nasty trick because those emails are going to drop again, as they do every month.
I'm going to disagree with you because I think Benghazi was way more serious than emails. But I want to turn to Paul Ryan. Let's turn to Brian for Paul Ryan here, because Ryan, he's made a big play about his family leave. Let's listen to what he said about the importance of his family to him.
Flashpoint is personal. I cannot and I will not give up my family time.
Brian, this is a man who's opposed mandatory paid leave for new parents. Doesn't he face the criticism of being a hypocrite here?
I don't think anybody is going to hold it against him that he wants to spend more time with his family. I totally agree with that. I like that he said that. I do. I think people on the left are going to say that they want to have the government making these decisions for private corporations. And, you can hit him on that. You can criticize him on that. But I think it's a good decision. I think the bigger problem he's going to have is on the right. The House Freedom Caucus is going to be watching him. This is a guy who voted for TARP. He's had a couple bad votes. He is not a pure conservative. He's somebody who definitely is a strong Republican, but many conservatives are going to be skeptically looking at him and watching to make sure that he's pushing very hard in debt limit negotiations and moving forward in these appropriations bills.
Susan, it might be a good week for for the House GOP, but bad if Paul Ryan is still going to be faced with a Freedom Caucus every day of his life moving forward.
Well, we don't necessarily know that's the case. When you see 240 votes going for Paul Ryan, that says that people are willing to work with him. And it's more about building the relationships. And he did a smart thing setting out his terms so people knew what to expect of him. So that was very important.
Jamal, last quick word for you. The National Journal analyzed the political ideology of the last 11 speakers. They found that Paul Ryan would be the most conservative House Speaker in recent history. The House GOP, the Freedom Caucus might get what it wants, but doesn't this put the House GOP in a position which is outside the mainstream?
Well, we already know the House GOP caucus is pretty outside the mainstream, but I have to tell you, this is probably not the most politically correct thing to say for people in my party, but I feel more comfortable having Paul Ryan as a Speaker of the House. I mean, he's an adult, and he seems like he's willing to do a deal with the President of the United States. The very things that Brian's upset about are the things that give me comfort, and I do think that Paul Ryan would probably sit there and make good decisions on behalf of the country, even if they are decisions I may disagree with because they're too conservative.
Okay, Brian Darling, thank you. Jamal and Susan, please stick around. We'll see you later in the show.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's take a quick look at the results so far.